Joan Breitbart, Body Conversations, May 9th. Wow, this has been a real newsworthy week in the fatness world. So begin with the fact that Weight Watchers officially filed for bankruptcy. They have billions, I think, of debt, which of course they're pretending was something else, but obviously it was trying to fuel their crappy diet, which has made most of America fat, given that they were the originators of this whole industry back to 1963. So, of course, they're restructuring so they can continue to feed you too much to eat, but it'll be all healthy. Anyway, the other one is David Kessler, who's an MD. He was head of the FDA. I think he was dean of the Yale School of Medicine. He's always had a weight problem. He struggled with his weight. That's what he said. I think he's in his 60s or more. Anyway, he just published a book, and it was written up by the New York Times, of course. They're all wellness bitches together, about obesity and weight loss drugs. Apparently, he's on one of the GLP-1 drugs. Can't remember which one. And he's singing its praises. And of course, this will just continue and continue, one after another, of people who cannot make the connection between their overeating as a result of trying to eat healthy, which they didn't like, and of course they didn't get any special nutritional benefits, since our food hardly has any nutrition, doesn't have any taste, and then binging. And you know, it's particularly interesting, a guy with his credentials, that it's pretty clear when you listen to him that he has no palate, that if someone treated him to a meal at a 5-star restaurant, he probably wouldn't like it. That what he wants is, you know, is some kind of Doritos or Skittles or something. He seems to always, this is going back years that I would read what he said and articles he would write, that he's always had this penchant for food that if you really tasted it, you would say, nah, it's not that great. But that's what happens when your mind is so consumed with trying to be good and not looking at food as pleasure and enjoyment. And then, you binge, and then you feel guilty, and then you have another problem, and it just goes on and on. Your head gets all messed up, and of course your body just grows and grows. And then, of course, we come up with terms to make ourselves feel like we're doing the right thing, as if there is a right thing. Superfoods, right? And then, of course, it's like not just, this is healthy, but a superfood is healthy, right? And playing with people's minds, and people are so easily suckered by this stuff, so that they feel like if they eat a superfood, it will, and this is what Mel Robbins has these people on her show all the time, that it will go in and chase the fat that's there and sort of absolve it, as if you could really get rid of it, like with liposuction or cool sculpting or something, where you freeze it or you extract it, but that's a food that's going to do that. No, it's not. Some kind of treatment may do it, but again, only a teeny weeny amount. So always you have these things, and then the next minute there's a contradiction because the media doesn't know what to say. So one of the great things, of course, was green tea, and that was going to replace coffee, which was terrible. Of course, now coffee is considered the most wonderful thing in the world, and you can't drink too much of it, and on and on and on. And then we forget that green tea was supposed to be better and coffee bad. And now we have this thing about matcha, which has a tremendous amount of caffeine. Yu Fujita, who works for the Physical Mind Institute and is probably the best Pilates teacher anywhere. Anyway, she's Japanese, and she tells this funny story about her husband, who's from Kansas, and waspy American, going to Japan and having some matcha tea made there, and apparently just about ready to pass out. And he's like 6'2" or something. It was just too strong for him, right? But of course, as we know, until Starbucks came around, Americans thought that brown coffee, some instant coffee diluted with a lot of water, was drinking coffee. And of course, now we've learned that's not coffee. But again, this is the process. It's a process in a country where people somehow didn't go back to their roots, where there was some kind of food and beverage tradition, and they came here and then did things that made them size up. So now we have eating clean. This is the funniest one to me, eating clean. I immediately think, oh, well, you're making something like cutting carrots or something, and one of them falls on the floor. And then do you think, well, it's okay, I'll just wash it off and eat it, or do you just eat it, or do you throw it away? Because this happens to me a lot, since I'm not so good in the kitchen. Chopping up some carrots or celery, and one of them falls on the floor, and then I pick it up and I think, oh, I'll just rinse it off and eat it. But some people wouldn't, because it's not clean. No, that's not what eating clean is. I'm not sure what it is, actually. I think it's another thing that Dr. David Kessler would be all over, that it's not eating the foods he wants to eat, like a cinnamon bun or something, those things they sell in airports that smell so good but taste terrible. So anyway, this is really the funniest part of this podcast. There's a guy named Andrew Siegler, and he's been in I think he's, maybe in his 40s. He's been in the fitness exercise biz probably his whole life. He's the one who started Exponential, which is a franchisor of what they call boutique fitness. Bar, Yoga 3, Ride, all of these things. So every one of these brands, and that's what they are, it started with spinning, then there would be Ride, and then there would be, Row, or whatever the kind of thing would be, and then Soul Cycle, and then Peloton, right? You're still sitting on a bike pedaling and listening to music that's going to ruin your hearing. But anyway, so he put together a big group of these and then aggressively sold them to people who wanted to be in the exercise wellness business. And most of these people, had made money, in businesses that were unglamorous, for example, like maybe insurance or office cleaning or something like that. And then they thought that, wow, to own a club Pilates, that was like, it would be ascending into the first ranks of blue chip everything. And, like you could have lunch at Buckingham Palace or whatever. It was just like, oh, this is what is worth it because it's so much more refined, or whatever they were saying. Anyway, because Club Pilates is now a huge franchise. On the other hand, most of the others he put together are not doing well. And about a year ago, he was indicted on some kind of fraud. I think it was franchise fraud or some other, overstating the value of these, on and on and on. And he was fired, and the stock of this company is, I don't know, really low. I think it's 5 or 6. And they're not doing well, except Club Pilates is thriving. And I think one other one. Maybe they're Bar 6 or whatever. Anyway, the point of all this is he doesn't have a job anymore, but of course he's going to go back into the exercise biz. But meanwhile, he has a podcast interview with someone who's in the biz, and he's talking about what he's doing, and of course he's eating clean. That's the most important thing. He kept talking about it, like just about could pat him on the back. He wanted to pat himself on the back. That was the whole thing. And that, where are we going with this? Well, the fitness industry is scared to death because Weight Watchers bankrupt, and I think Jenny Craig already went bankrupt, and one after another, people are not buying into these dopey diets, which is good. Of course, they're doing nothing, but hopefully soon they will all have Ozempic or Mounjaro. But anyway, so the fitness industry is scrambling to figure out what are they going to do. I mean, remember, no pain, no gain, no pain, no gain. So, most of the time, and this started in the 60s, of course, these brands, certainly, Barry's Boot Camp and CrossFit and, all these Orange Theory, all these high-intensity, beat-up-your-body brands is what people did, and they wanted to do because they would sweat, and somehow that made them think they were losing weight. It doesn't make any sense really if you understand the body, but that's what they thought. Of course, what happened was they, increased their cortisol because of their weight gain. It was stayed elevated. That told their brain they were hungry, even when they're carrying 30 or 40 pounds and they're not needing any food, and on and on and on. And all of this is getting somewhat revealed, but not too much, because, again, this is America. And, we never apologize. We never say we made a mistake. We never do any of this. We just push it under the rug and then go to the next fad or trend or whatever it is. Now, of course, these drugs they're trending, and it's amazing. They've become household names in a couple of years, which almost never happens. But no one is really talking about what you should do while you're on them. It's all, of course, eat healthy, eat clean, right? And have superfoods. No, it's not. It's eat small, eat less. It's 80 bites, because that's what got them in the first place. They didn't do 80 bites. They pretended they could eat as much as they want as long as it was healthy, not understanding the stomach doesn't care whether it's a cookie or some kale. So here we are. You've heard me say this, but really no one understands it. So I'm beginning to find this out as more people, and we see the stats on our 80 Bites website and the people ordering it. And then someone downloads the app and says, oh, this looks cool. And then I find out they think that 80 bites refers to 80 bites in one meal. And boy, this is happening. And if I'm with the person or talking to them, I mean, they sense, no, they've made a mistake. And then they might say, oh, is that 80 chews? Well, yes, 80 chews would be appropriate for 26 bites in a meal, right? But it just shows you, they talk about it as portion distortion, and that you can get a chart of what a hamburger used to be and what it is now, and what a soda was and what it is, on and on. We all know this, but nobody wants to recognize these portions, because it's okay to eat a huge quantity. You can fill a bird feeder, a big bowl with salad, and that's okay, but it's not okay. So it's really breaking down this desire to stuff yourself, to be a glutton, and finding that if you're a green glutton, you're doing something. And of course, now people are so brainwashed. I mean, it's incredible how brainwashed they are, that someone who's fat is eating and eating because they're nourishing themselves, because they've never heard of a vitamin pill, as if they needed more nutrients, right? But I see it, I'm in New York City, I'm on the street, I see people all the time. I was in a cab going up First Avenue yesterday. I wish I had my phone out. And there were two people, I guess they were in their 40s, a man and a woman. I think they were married, and the woman was obese, short, obese. Her husband was not as obese, but he had trouble walking. There's a certain part of that avenue where you're sort of going a little bit uphill. I mean, it's infinitesimally higher, but anyway. And I thought, it wasn't hot. What if in a month from now, when maybe it's 90 degrees, how are they going to be walking outside and not expire because of the heat, and they're sweating and all this extra weight on their bodies? And who knows, maybe they're going to take one of these miracle diet drugs, but they should take it soon. Anyway, so that's where we are. Andrew Siegler, who, I guess his first franchise was a boxing one. I can't remember the name. Then he had a bike one. Of course, you have to have a bike one. Everyone likes to sit on a bike and beat up their body. Then he got a yoga one and a bar, B-A-R-R-E, bar. People think that's great exercise. And if the teacher is good, it can be beneficial for certain people. Again, everything can work, but maybe nothing will. It's how you, the consumer, the individual, make it your own. I can go and in my building in New York where I live, there's a fabulous gym, free. Well, I guess it's included in what we pay. But anyway, they've got 4 Peloton bikes. I've got an account. I get on that bike. Sometimes I put my Tie 4X on, and then it's really great. But mostly, of course, I just make it my own if I'm going to do it. And that means I don't want to hear what these people have to say because they're so vulgar, or the music, which I don't like. And that means making the ride what I want for me, not listening to someone dictate to me, because I know, I'm 84, what I need. Now, of course, I'm in the business, so I really understand bodies, but I understand all bodies. A person only needs to understand one body, their own body. And then that person knows how much to eat, which of course is the same whether you're 5 feet tall or 6 feet tall. And the calories can differ depending upon what you eat, but not how much. And then what exercise you do given your body. I mean, what if you have one hip higher than the other, which is pretty common now when people sit with one leg crossed over the other. Then you know that, and you know what you have to do if you're seated on a bike or doing a Pilates mat work class or taking a bar class. You need to know what your body needs, wants, benefits from. And then you adjust it. Because you're not going to have a teacher, in most cases, come over and really help you. That's what they should do, but they don't, unfortunately. Physical mind trained teachers are supposed to do that. I don't know what they're doing anymore because, people get trained and then they go off and they see something and then they do something else and who knows where it is. So it's up to you, and you can do it, to learn about your own body. Not that you're struggling with your weight, we've heard that a million times, but what it is that you need to do. And of course it begins with, for everyone, learning how much to eat, and that's 80 Bites, and it's a free app, and you need to get it immediately, if not sooner. Bye-bye.